We are ready to go when you are.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order for August 9th, 2022. We will now take a moment for silent prayer or meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Vice Chair Gutierrez. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all.
All right. Paulina, roll call, please.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Commissioner Hing. Commissioner Williams is absent today. Commissioner Becerra?
Here.
Vice Chair Gutierrez?
Here.
Chair Lewis?
Here. All right, tonight we have minutes from the regular Planning Commission meeting that was held on July 12th, 2022. Anyone have any changes to the minutes? Right. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as submitted. Moving on to oral communications, would anyone like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent calendar. There's no matters on the consent calendar tonight, so I'm going to move on to public hearings. Tonight we have one public hearing on the agenda. Paulina, who will present the staff report on this?
Good evening. Jerry Rivera will be providing the presentation this evening.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. This is conditional use permit number 22-04 for a supermarket. To give a little bit of background, the subject site is located in a new shopping center that is called Diamond City Shopping Center. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for instructional tasting events. The location is zoned as medium commercial. The location is on the corner of East Garvey Avenue North and North Citrus Street, which is in the Diamond City Shopping Center. And the surrounding uses are single-family residential, multifamily residential, service commercial, and regional commercial. And the overall lot size is 160,324 square feet. Moving forward, this is their site plan. And this is the proposed location. Moving on to the proposed floor plan. The orange highlight is the alcohol sampling area. This will be limited to 500 square feet and will be sectioned off from the public during events. The green is the ID check location. Tasting events will not be held by the Type 21 ABC license of this location, which was approved on November 24th, 2020, but instead will be held by California licensed alcohol manufacturers, and they will include instruction on the history, nature, and values of the alcoholic beverages. The applicant is applying for Type 86 instructional tasting license, and the license is merely an accessory that can only be obtained by applicants that hold an off-sale license. As far as staff, it's conducted by a qualified alcohol supplier. When it comes to clients, attendees at tasting events must be 21 years or older. And the tasting event hours are limited to the hours of 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Planning staff recommends adopting resolution number 22-6110, approving conditional use permit number 22-04. This concludes the presentation. I'm available for any questions. The applicant is also here if you have any questions for them.
Anyone have any questions?
Supermarket.
I think it's Whole Foods, right? Isn't that what it was supposed to be?
Or Amazon Marketplace or something? Is this the Amazon location before?
It's a grocery store, and I don't think that they've disclosed disclose the name at this time. Maybe we'll let the applicant confirm or deny.
Hi, my name is Stephen Jameson. I'm a lawyer, and I represent here the applicant for this conditional use permit. My name is shown as the applicant. I am not actually the applicant. I'm actually the attorney for the applicant. Unfortunately, I can't disclose to you at the moment the name of the grocery store. I believe this appeared before you, probably a year ago at this point, for the CUP or the AUP that was necessary for the Type 21 license. I can tell you that I'm very knowledgeable about how the tastings work and the Type 86, which is what we're here for tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for that.
When are they looking to open?
We're hoping to do it, as I understand it, sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, is my understanding. Now, I see that the building, the envelope of the building is getting prepared, and then, of course, comes the tenant improvements and the grocery, and I apologize for being so vague about that. Unfortunately, I'm just required to do that. But the grocery is looking to get open just as soon as possible.
You do have a grocery, right? I assume.
Oh, sure. I heard mention whether it's a Whole Foods. I can tell you that it's not a Whole Foods, but I can tell you that it is similar in nature to a Whole Foods type store. Or a Vons or a Ralph's or any major grocery store, although it does have some facilities that will provide some technology that's going to be different and more up to date than any of those stores.
Any other questions for the applicant? Anything else you would like to say?
No, as I said, I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the tastings license of Type 86. You've already approved the necessary land use entitlements for the Type 21 and the other entitlements that are necessary. So this is ancillary to that.
All right. Seeing no questions, I'm just going to go forward and ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of the application. Oh, okay. That's the only one? Okay.
Yes.
And, all right. Fair enough. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the floor to commission discussion. Any question or discussion, anyone?
I'd like to know what he's asking. What part of Garvey is this?
It's next to the Nissan dealership.
This is where the former Mazda dealership was
Mazda.
and the paint store.
Three.
So it's right next to Nissan. It's south of the Nissan dealership.
So it's in the mall, the car mall, the auto mall?
Across from
No. So they demolished the former Mazda site.
on the north side.
Constructing a new shopping center.
Citrus and
Okay.
Garvey Avenue North.
It's across from Eastland.
Oh, yes. I was thinking.
Any other questions or discussion?
I do have a question. I mean, what is a tasting wine? Yeah.
What a tastings is it allows a winery or a brewery or a distilled spirits manufacturer to come in and allow samplings, very tiny samplings, of what their product is. So if you think about any grocery store that you might go to, and it has an alcohol section where you can buy alcohol, that requires a Type 21 license. No consumption can take place on the premises of a Type 21 licensee. So the grocery store itself cannot allow any consumption. There's no restaurant. There's nothing like that. That would be a different type of license. What a Type 86 does is allow periodically a very small portion to be sampled. It cannot be sold, and it's not provided by the Type 21 licensee. So the grocery store does not provide it. The grocery store allows space to be used within there that then gets cordoned off. And let's say it's a distillery. They might come in and offer an eighth of an ounce tasting or a quarter of an ounce tasting. It can only take place in the cordoned off area, and none of that can be purchased. Can't be sold, can't be purchased, and it's very limited in terms of what can be consumed.
So do they have someone there at all times within that time frame and just saying, I'd like to try this, I'd like to try that?
Yes, yes. So if you think about any grocery store you might go to or a Costco where you have people that are there providing samples, it's similar to that, except that the people that are within that cordoned off area are not employees of the grocery store. They can't be.
They're from the actual...
They're from the actual brewer or from the distillery or whatever, and so they're in there. However, both, and they're licensed by the ABC as well, and so they're obligated to make sure that they're not serving any minors or serving any obviously intoxicated people. In addition to that, the grocery store that holds a Type 21 license is obligated to make sure that everything that goes on within that cordoned off area, because it's still within their premises, that they have the obligation to make sure that it's done safely. So you've got two different licensees that monitor and control what's going on, but only the distillery, the brewery, or the winery is the one actually offering the sampling.
So those who are coming to sell their products are basically, they're trying to promote them. So they would have maybe 3 different bottles of wine or something like that? And
Right.
they're not like 10, like here's 10 shots.
No, it's actually very, very limited. And it's by state law, it's very limited. And I noticed in the staff report that staff provided a list of those requirements on that. Those very limited requirements.
So just so that I can clarify this, this isn't just promotional handouts. It's actually classes that people have to sign up for in advance. Is that right or no?
No, not necessarily. It can be that, but generally speaking, what it is that let's say Robert Mondavi wants to come in and provide some winery information, and so they'll come in. They'll bring 2 or 3 types of wine that they have. They'll set it up. They'll allow enough people into the cordoned off area so that it's not overcrowded. It does not have to be signed up for in advance, generally. If there's a huge demand, they might do that, but it's certainly not required. And then people can come in and they'll pour and they'll tell them about the wine and tell them how it's made and where it comes from and that type of thing. But they can't come in and sell. So there's no money transacted, and they can't walk out with a bottle doing that. If the grocery store has the same bottle, which probably happens, they can leave there and then go and they can do their grocery shopping, and they want to get a bottle of the same type of wine, they can buy it. They buy it from the grocery store. Yeah, it's actually fun.
Sounds fun.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. So we're approving the operation of the business, or hold on, look at this.
Tastings.
Application for conditional use permit to authorize on-site and social tasting events for beer, wines, distilled spirits within a grocery store. We don't know who that grocery store is.
Unfortunately, we can't disclose the name. This was the same issue that came before you, excuse me, before the commission a year ago, I think it was, when the issue was the Type 21 license at that time. That was all approved, along with everything else that had to do with the grocery store itself. This is just ancillary, having to do with the tasting.
That was probably a different commission back then. But I wasn't here for this.
So how does this work? We don't know who the stores are.
I mean, it could be an organization that has ill intentions for the community. How we're supposed to vote for something and we don't know who the tenant is.
Well, because it's actually the property owner that has the conditional use permit that is then recorded and encumbers the land, and it becomes the property owner's responsibility to make sure that all the conditions are complied with, as well as the operator, as well as anybody who utilizes the property. And I realize it is odd that we're not able to disclose that, but there's particular reasons for that. So I can tell you it's a major grocery operator. I can tell you it's a very well-run retail operator that has an excellent reputation.
So we approved their permit already last year for this specific client. Did we know who they were before?
You did not. And it was actually the property owner and the builder developer that came in and did that because, as you know, conditional use permits run with the land, and so they encumber the land. And so the property owner and really anybody who's involved with that can apply for and legally can obtain a conditional use permit that then encumbers the land. So like, for instance, if a grocery store came in, and this is for anything, came in and gets a conditional use permit, that conditional use permit runs with the land, stays with the land. If it's Ralph's and Ralph's leaves and Vons comes in, or Sprouts comes in, or Whole Foods comes in, they all have the same conditions, no matter who it is, because the actual operator is actually regulated by the state ABC.
Yeah, but rarely does a city authorize a conditional use permit without knowing who the actual operator is going to be.
Happens all the time.
They probably try to market it. I guess my question is, who else has a wine tasting?
Oh, wonderful. You should ask. I was just going to mention it. Currently in West Covina, it's not a grocery store, it's a retail store, but Bevmo does have the instructional tasting. And so this would be very similar setup where it's a space within the existing store. And, you know, it's not the entire day, it's limited times, and it is for promotional events for brewers, distilleries, or wineries. Yeah.
I can also tell you, I represent Whole Foods, I represent Sprouts, I represent Bevmo, and they all operate exactly the same with these tastings license. So I'm familiar with all of them. I can tell you anything you'd like to know about how they work.
Is the Sprout over here has one?
No, the only place that has it right now in West Covina is Bevmo. But it is becoming, I think, a trend in grocery stores. I don't know if you guys, it's a little bit different concept, but Italy and Century City, where you can actually go shopping with a glass of wine. It's a whole new concept.
It's actually, Italy is an interesting concept because it has so many different uses in there as part of their grocery operation. They've actually worked it out. I did not work on that, but they've actually worked it out so that you can actually get your glass of wine and walk around and do your shopping for your grocery. It's in Century City. It's great.
Century City Mall.
Yeah. It's actually really, really nice.
If you haven't gone, I would recommend checking it out.
They probably have very good sales there.
They have excellent sales there. They're actually very expensive. And they have a rooftop deck with a restaurant and so forth. But that's not the norm. It's interesting that they got that done because if you talk to the ABC would say, no, you've got to keep it separated. And so that's what we normally deal with. But Italy does have that ability, which actually is, I think, kind of cool.
So I think this project was approved back on October of 2020 or something.
Yeah, I think
November. Okay. Mm-hmm. I see the packet.
Well, as long as it meets all ABC requirements, I don't see any problem with it.
And also, so that you know, what will happen is as the store gets ready to open, there'll be an application made to the ABC for the Type 86. The ABC then vets the location, does vet the actual operator, because the operator holds the ABC license. But the property owner generally gets and makes sure that they get, because the property is encumbered by the CUP. So the CUP is for the property. That's what the local government gets to do. And then the state ABC actually regulates the alcohol aspect of it. And so that's the Type 86. It'll get posted. The city gets notice of it. Law enforcement gets notice of it. Anybody living within or has a place within 500 feet of a location gets a notice, and then it goes through that whole vetting process. And they investigate. And as I'm sure you know, they're all sworn law enforcement officers that are involved in that. And then they also have licensing reps and so forth. So that's what they do.
I guess in another word is that, in a nutshell, the property owner is trying to get entitlement and try to market that shopping center for a grocery store if they don't have anyone yet. So the bottom line is they're trying to get all the...
And if I'll chime in, it's actually what the gentleman has said is it's not the individual users, but this is the property owner. So the property owner will be the one who's looking for the conditional use permit, and it will run with the land. So the property owner can change, the tenant can change, but the conditional use permit will always be there. So what you're looking at is if this use that requires a conditional use permit is acceptable at this location. And so that's what you're looking at, really, does it meet the findings to grant?
Will help the owner of the property to better market their property for a high dollar.
Right, because they may have had, let's say, the grocery store, but maybe they didn't have the, quote, tenant, and this may be a way to entice a certain tenant they're trying to get as the property owner, trying to pull a certain class of tenants that they're looking for, a major anchor. So that's what you're looking to do, is approve for the property whether or not this conditional use permit, because as he said, getting the license is going to be subject to a different situation where they have to go through ABC, and it'd be a different individual who may be getting that or company that may be getting that. kind of like with if you had to have a restaurant and they had to get their ABC license, you may have to have a conditional use permit, which you usually don't for a restaurant. But if you did, the property owner would usually have that aspect of it.
So since this is one of the very first one in the grocery store per se, can other grocery stores, an existing grocery store, apply for this type of tasting licenses?
Yes. They can apply.
All of them can have it, basically.
Once again, I think they could get approval. They would have to go through the approval process here through the city. And at the end of the day, they'd still have to go through ABC to get that instructional tasting.
And they can only get, if I may, they can only get an instructional tasting if they also have a Type 20 or Type 21 license. So they can't have an instructional tasting to come in and provide the service if they don't also have a 21 or a 20. And a 20 simply is beer and wine. 21 is beer, wine, and distilled spirits. So they have to have that as well as this. This is ancillary to that.
So who's going to hold the wine or the liquor license?
The ABC license is applied for by the applicant, so the operator that's going to be operating that business. So it'd be the grocery store, not the landlord.
So the grocery store will be applying for the ABC license?
Yes.
And we don't know who that is.
Not yet. Not yet, unfortunately. The grocery store will apply to the ABC for the ABC license, the 21, and also the 86, that's the tastings. And if it interests you at all, I can just tell you that the history of the 86 is it's fairly recent and only came out about maybe 8 or 10 years ago. And so not a lot of cities are even familiar with the 86. Most cities, and I do this all up and down California and in other states as well, but for California, most cities aren't aware of an 86 yet because they haven't had to deal with it. And most cities don't have anything in their code that even requires a conditional use permit. The city of Los Angeles doesn't have it for that. And so your city does have this. It's clear that it's requiring this conditional use permit. And so that's how the city's been able to get ahead of it. But most aren't. And so we get a CUP. Then we apply to the ABC for a 21 and an 86. The 21 allows the grocery store to have the alcohol and to be able to sell. And the 86 allows other people to come in and provide the sampling, as I said. But before the 86 came out, you might have seen BevMo used to have it, other places had it. They'd actually get what was kind of a restaurant license. And in that case, a grocery store or BevMo would actually sell the product. They could allow tastings because you can do that with what's called an on-sale license. But the 86 was brought in to allow it so that you didn't have to now get an on-sale license and act like you're a restaurant and do that. And the 86 allows for just periodic tastings. So it's not constant. It's not every day. It's generally, I'd say, I don't know how this BevMo does it here, but I know that BevMo generally does it once a week, once every 2 or 3 weeks for an hour or two, generally.
So once they have a Type 21, how hard is it or easy is it to get the transition to the Type 86? And then are there any provisions or rules that come with that?
86, once the 21 is generally the difficult one to get, or relatively more difficult one to get, because the 21 allows for the beer, wine, distilled spirits to be sold, and generally, not in grocery stores. Generally, in grocery stores are not generally an issue, but for convenience stores, the 7-Elevens, the Circle Ks, any other kind of convenience store that's maybe 1,500 square feet, 2,000, I'm sure you probably have heard, and law enforcement generally has, just in general, some concerns about that because they always are concerned that maybe it attracts vagrants and homeless and encampments and things like that, or kids from school. That's, I don't want to say never, it probably is someplace, but 99% of the time, that's not an issue for a full-size grocery store. So, and this is a full-size grocery store. So to get a 21, it's just considered to be normal operation for a grocery store. And if you think about any grocery you've been to, they're going to have either a Type 21 or a Type 20. I'm sorry? I can neither confirm nor deny.
Might not even know who the tenant is yet, right? Or who they're going to put there. Or do you already, we don't have to tell us who, do they already know who the tenant's going to be?
I can neither confirm nor deny. And I know that's an
When
odd
we
way to-
can, we will definitely update City Council and our planning commissioners.
Paulina knows too.
And when we can, I can tell you that having to deal with that in other cities actually can be kind of interesting and funny, because I generally get questions like that, or I'll hear that, well, there are a certain number of trucks with a certain name, and they're in the parking lot, and I can neither confirm nor deny. So I'm not trying to be cute about it. Just we've got a non-disclosure agreement, and just what we have to do. I can at least posit that I hope that you'll be pleased. I think that you will be pleased. Knowing what I know about how the store operates, you don't know me from Adam, so you can believe me or not. I think you'll be pleased with what gets built and who's there and how it operates. There are some stores open now where the communities are very excited about what's going on. But again, you don't know me, but I'm going to tell you that's what I see. So. I don't know who that would be.
It's changed ownership. I don't know the name of. Do you know the name? Is it Azusa Fargi? I don't know the name of the property owner off the top of my head. I believe it's the same ownership, just they've changed entities on the property.
That's my understanding.
Any other questions? Any questions for staff? I'll open it up for discussion. Anyone? Or motion?
A motion that we go to the tasting before every planning commission meeting.
I've actually done that where we've had community opposite, not for this company, not for this type of operation, but other things, because I do a lot of that probably, where we've actually brought in samples and provided it and made it kind of fun.
I do have a question for staff. Do we have anything specific in this that covers whether or not the operator is required to ask for identification of every person who tastes, or is it just what is it, age 35 or something like that they that they can waive identification? I'm just trying to.
So Jaron can maybe explain it better, but it defaults to the ABC rules. So which
Do we have to default to the ABC rules?
yes.
Right. So we cannot impose additional requirements.
What requirements were you?
And I'll interject, not when it comes to the ABC license itself, because that is completely controlled by ABC. If there were in connection with the conditional use permit for something else, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so if you have conditions of use you want to add to it, you could. So, yeah.
If they relate to the use, but not as opposed to the license itself. And you can't be more restrictive when it comes to the ABC, because they're actually pretty restrictive. And trust, they don't. If somebody gets a license, if they don't follow, they're subject to getting it yanked, and now one of their components of their business is gone. So they're pretty strict when it comes to.
So we can't have any specific requirements that say, as a condition of getting this conditional use permit, you have to have someone check every ID of someone who receives a sample.
They already have to do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's already required. They wouldn't be able to allow anybody in there. That's why they're going to check the IDs. And whatever the ABC rule is as to if somebody looks like they're under 30 or 35, you card them. They already have to follow that.
Right. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, notwithstanding the age cutoff that ABC has, if we said we wanted to have, hypothetically, anyone who partakes in a taste or a tasting event, can we make that a requirement?
I think that, again, is more restrictive than what ABC, so you have to.
There's no law saying that he can't, so therefore he can make the condition, and then the city council could either take it off at that time, or
No, you cannot be more. You cannot overrule what the requirements are of a state organization and the state requirements and law. So what you would be doing is making it more restrictive. Unless they've specifically given you the authority to do that, you don't get to do that.
if I make a recommendation that a certain area as a condition of use, because there's going to be alcohol serving, that a certain area shall be designated and that individuals who go in that designated area should be ID, that's considered a condition of use.
But I think that's already part of the ABC license requirements.
You have something that shows them exactly.
No, not necessarily.
It's a mind melt.
I do.
Well, it's like you go into a bar, they are required to check your ID. And they have to check ID.
Sorry. Sometimes in the daytime, restaurants are restaurants, and at nighttime they become a nightclub and so forth. So at that time, their city will make a condition of a use part of that of their permit process, a condition of use to add something to ensuring the quality of life for the residents of the local city. So it doesn't have to. I don't think the chairman's saying that he's gonna. He's not recommending that we override state law. Where he's recommending that if he could add an additional conditional use to the thing, which I believe it's legal, he can.
I can also see that. I'm sorry. I can also see that that might be a problem because if I'm shopping at a grocery store and I have a 5 years old, I like to yank him along with me while I'm tasting whatever is offered. But that's hypothetical. I can't just leave him out there.
That's a good question. So, will little kids be allowed in the white tasting area?
No, they're not allowed there. You have to be.
So here's your question.
You have to be of age. But if I may address that, because it's actually a really important part, the way that the laws. Is there a city attorney here? No? Oh, you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to get in your way. So, but I do this all the time. Okay, and. There's Article 20, Section 22 of the California Constitution says that the only entity that can regulate the sale of alcohol is the state level, and it's the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. So anything having to do with the sale and consumption and service of alcohol, the only entity that gets to do that is the ABC. The ABC operates pursuant to statutes that are passed by that constitutional provision and then regulations that the ABC implements. This particular Type 86 license is subject to two different sections of the state code. Those sections of the state code, which I'm happy to provide, and I think we actually may have done that with staff already, has very specific limitations. And Commissioner Becerra had asked about conditions here. So if you take a look at page 4 of your resolution, and you look at paragraph 5, and I think it's A through I, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Those are very specific limitations on what can occur in the tastings area. And the only reason that it's possible to actually put this in the conditional use permit, because it does regulate the sale of alcohol, so technically it would be unconstitutional to do that. But the only reason that it's possible here is because it exactly, I didn't check the words, but I'm assuming it's correct, it exactly mimics the two code sections that impose those limitations. But those limitations come from state law. And so really it's just restating it here. But it's no different than state law. If it were different than state law, and as the city attorney said, if it's more restrictive, that would be something that would be illegal for the commission to do.
City staff, can you put up the stores map?
It's a maximum of 8 ounces per day.
Okay. Where is the wine tasting going to be at?
Orange area. And then the green area is, I believe they're going to be doing the verifying age. We're checking
Let me find.
ID.
And actually, if I may, you'll notice that green area has an entrance and it has an exit. And generally in grocery stores, you don't.
You said that's the green area? You said the green area?
The green areas they're going to be checking ID, and then the orange area is the actual tasting area, tasting instructional area.
So it's separated from the rest of the store, or?
It will be sectioned off. So it's not going to be you can meander in and meander out. You're going to have to go through the entry point and exit through.
Okay, yeah, so that solves that.
Seems very similar to how they do it at like Total Wine. They have like a separate classroom kind of area. Yeah.
Yeah.
At Total Wine.
And then when there are no tastings taking place, that area becomes part of the retail, and people walk through and
Understood. Okay.
But if I may, just so that it gives you some comfort, the way it's set up is actually fairly unique because it's got an entrance and it's got an exit. I think the entrance is at the bottom part of it, right? So the entrance is there. That's where the ID gets checked. Then the people that are allowed to go in have ID, they've been checked, and then they come out the other side, and then they're monitored, actually. So they get checked there, and then when they go to check
So
out,
like hypothetically, I could say as a conditional use, as a condition of use, that they should have a 6 feet gate in there or something. It sounds stupid, but that's something that the commission has authority to recommend. But yeah, just to prove the point. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Any other questions, anyone?
No questions.
Okay. Discussion or a motion?
Motion, I'd like to motion to approve conditional use permit number 22-04.
And I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Becerra, second by Vice Chair Gutierrez. Can I have roll call?
Yes. Good evening. So, motion to approve resolution number 22-6110. Commissioner Hing,
Aye.
Commissioner Becerra,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gutierrez,
Aye.
Chair Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I have one more question for you. How many jobs will this be creating? Do you know?
I don't. I can tell you that generally speaking, I believe it's somewhere between 100 and 400.
Okay, great. Yeah.
A lot, generally speaking, large, not overall.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, this action is final unless appealed to the City Council within 10 days. Moving on, we have no non-hearing items. Let's move on to Commissioner reports, comments, and miscellaneous items. Does anyone on the Commission have anything to report or comment on? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the Community Development Director's report. Paulina, do you have any items to report to the Commission?
Good evening. There's a couple items I wanted to share with our commissioners. We have our last summer concert of the year tomorrow. It is Cold Duck. They got rescheduled as they were going to be starting a concert, but due to the rain. So tomorrow, 7 o'clock here at City Hall in the courtyard. If you guys can attend, everyone's welcome. And also, we are getting ready for our State of the City. Ticket sales will start tomorrow, and it's going to be Thursday, September 15th. Starting at 5:30, and it's going to be held at the Sportsplex facility. So hope to see everyone there.
Last year?
Same place it was last year, yes.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Right.
And that's it for me this evening.
Any questions? All right, moving on. Paulina, any actions by the City Council you'd like to speak to the Commission about?
Not this evening. Thank you.
All right, since we have no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned at 7:39 p.m.